Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. And the final day of qualifiers for the CDL Major 1 has now concluded. The qualification seeds have now been determined. Loads of cracking matchups today to get to that point, and some great storylines being built ahead of the OpTic Major in just a couple of weeks' time. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed the video. Subscribe if you are new as always. I'd greatly appreciate it. Let's just dive straight on into things then. Thanks very much indeed for doing that as well. Forgot to say that almost. These were the three games of the day. First of all, of course, was the Seattle Surge versus London, but before that even happened, the CDL was trying to explain what's actually happening here for the tiebreakers. It seems what we discussed earlier today is exactly the way they ended up doing it, because the way they used to do it, right, in the groups, like last year, because they had two groups of 6, if there was 3 teams tied at 2 and 3, for example, they would look at those 3 teams and say, okay, they played against each other, of course, because it was a group, therefore they could do head-to-head-to-head map counts within those 3 teams. The problem is when you've got a 5-way tiebreaker or whatever, is that you can't break that if the teams haven't played each other. Like, some one team might be 3-0 in map counts against one of the other teams, but that's not really fair to give them first seed off that if one of the other teams was, for example, 3-1 and they played all the other 4 teams. It's a crazy situation, but I guess what they decided, okay, yes, let's just do map counts. That makes it somewhat easier, but of course, certain teams that got a very hard schedule arguably got screwed over here as a result. These were the 7 teams coming into the day confirmed. It was between Boston and Mutineers who would get that 8th spot. New York, Paris, and Minnesota already confirmed to be out of there, and it does seem somewhat tough on Minnesota, right? Because as well, Looney says, losers bracket guaranteed, unfortunately. Tiebreakers didn't go our way. Nothing we can do but get better and show out to the next major. And as they'll discuss here in a few minutes' time, we'll look at, like, they got a very tough bracket here for this, set of major qualifiers, which, maybe something the CDL could look at. Of course, in theory, it balances out over time. But, these guys certainly did pretty well, I thought, at this stage, given their opposition, but to end up not making it through to winners, which, basically, will eliminate your chance of winning the entire tournament straight off the bat. Doesn't completely, but, starting in losers, obviously not ideal. Thankfully, not something that London or Seattle had to worry about. They played the first series of the day. Very exciting one, right? Because London in their previous series, they looked a little bit shaky. Seattle have certainly looked a bit shaky as of late. So I was hoping London would come in here and kind of put on a show. That is exactly what they did. Like, the comms, honestly, the first map comms were so entertaining, right? These guys are really feeling themselves. Like, super great energy really between the guys. Like, great chemistry that this London team has. And, Afro is a monster. Like, they're all monsters, right? No doubt. But, Gizmo had his moments towards the end. Nasty showed up as well. Kind of one of the first series we've really seen Nasty have a load of highlight plays. But, and Afro is just that guy. Like, game 1 was just ridiculous, and they dominated really once again, and it was kind of surprising. Like, when Seattle, like, the energy wasn't quite there from those guys. It's really interesting what's going to happen with Seattle going forward, because right at the start of the game, they seem to be a bit ahead of a curve. Like, but now if the slaying isn't there, London is a team that's seriously going to bite you, because the slaying power on this team is honestly out of control. Game 2 did not go their way. They got completely bodied on the Game 2 Search and Destroy, but at the respawns, they pretty much dominate, to be honest. The control was kind of close, but the final game as well, it was very comfortable, and really impressive, because that's the thing. Accuracy, honestly, like, he was doing a fair bit of slaying. That's kind of the worry that some people had with Seattle. Okay, if accuracy's there, maybe not performing quite as well as the Maniak as other Maniaks might do in the league, can he get performance from the rest of the guys? When Pred and Sib aren't kind of going off on the main stage, like, this team underperforms, right? And that's kind of what we saw here. And Seattle Surge go down. They finished 3-2. London 4-1 in this group stage. Very impressive. The best this team has looked, this organization has looked, probably in their history, quite honestly. And they go into the group stage with potentially a very good seeding indeed. And the seeding also means that you get to choose which control map you play at the major, which is definitely a pretty big advantage if you have the seeding advantage over your opposition. Now, look at these series stats. Afro's a monster, 1.22 KT. We know it at this point, right? But 0 out of 0.86 on Berlin. That was the best anyone did. London kind of got bodied there on the Search and Destroy. Nasty had a 1.56 on the Garatu. Generally difficult for an SMG player to have that kind of performance, but the London guys didn't really seem to struggle right here. Their offenses, the slaying was just out of control, to be honest. And we see this, the overall stats. Afro 1.22, 0 1.15, Nasty and Gizmo 1.10s respectively. And yes, Sib and Pred, the two kind of stars of the team, have again a 0.75, 0.76. Interesting, frankly, because the last 2 series they played somewhat underperformed right in terms of the slaying, which certainly something they'll have to keep their eyes on. Novas Vita says, the general manager of the organisation, GG's to London. They've really got to figure out what's going on there, because kind of unacceptable performances the last couple of series they played. Like, kind of surprising. Just set some great storylines going into the major, right? Because Seattle seemingly not quite the force we thought they were at the Kickoff Classic, and shortly after that. Let's dive into the OpTic series then, because this was a big one for seeding, because Boston needed to win a map right here to guarantee themselves a spot in winners. If they got 3-0s, Mutineers would have got through, as they say right here. Apparently, if OpTic 3-0 Boston, we started winners. Whatever it takes at OpTic, please help us get the job done. And it looked like they honestly might have. Well, it looked like Boston were going to actually do a number on OpTic here after the game 1. Gather 2 hard points, really close fought affair. Boston did a crazy job clutching up here. Like, honestly, Methods made some great plays in and around this kind of circle type thing. Like, he got a nice little 3-piece. The 4th falls with the help of Capsidel as well, 250-247. And this really was where OpTic kind of backs against the wall to some degree. This is where I was very impressed with OpTic today, and this is why I really feel like they've turned a corner as a team. When they beat Paris, it was like, okay, you're beating Paris, what does that matter? All 3 maps were dominant. Against Toronto, very impressive win, but again, a lot of those maps actually, it seemed like Ultra was nowhere really near the pace that they should be, at least theoretically, and they didn't really have to come back from adversity. They were up 3-0. Well, they won the series 3-0. They were never behind, right? Now, in this series, they go down 1-0, very close for the fair. I really feel like last year's OpTic and, well, previous iterations of the team would kind of have got in their own head as a result of this, fallen off their game a little bit, and, I mean, yeah, not come back and won the series. And again, it was nowhere near easy. They faced a lot of, well, resilience really in the search and destroy from Boston. Boston were up 5-4. OpTic then won a great offense, which obviously offense favored on this Tuscan map right now. And then it goes down to a final defense. Shotzzy makes some great plays. Boston really took their time planting, and it kind of cost them in the end. But look, OpTic are down 5-4 in a game 2 search and destroy. If they'd have lost that either of those 2 rounds, they'd have been down 2-0, right? So a big deal for OpTic, just to show the ability that when their backs are against the wall here, they're down 1-0, it's game 2, round 11. Like, they can clutch up, win this game 2, go on to win the series. That's what the best teams in the game do. OpTic showed that they can actually do that today, because in their first 2 series they played against London and Minnesota, when the kind of pressure was on, that's when they collapsed. This time, that was not the case at all. So very impressive how quickly it seems they've turned things around here. Now, well, they play the control as well. Again, dominant from OpTic. They won the first defense. They take the offense pretty impressively. This is a pretty remarkable spawn, actually. Like, Illy just spawns right in front of him. Like, yeah, poor DJ Alley. Kind of feel bad for him here, to be honest. But, you know, they were probably losing the map regardless. But, I mean, yes, still get this spawn that comes out right here. He's literally walking up here, and Illy just pops into existence right in front of him and shoots him in the side. Unlucky, mate. Better luck off the next respawn, I suppose. But yeah, OpTic win their offense pretty comfortably. They close out on the defense. This is kind of what I was saying yesterday with all these maps that seem to go round 5 in control. Generally, the better control teams will find a way to put away an offense. That's what they do right here. Very impressive. And they close out the final map as well. They close out this game. They close out the final map. And again, OpTic win the series 3-1. But I think an older OpTic team, maybe the team that they were in the first week here, lose this series. Right? They probably lose that round 11 search and destroy game 2. They get in their own heads. They get flustered. But yeah, the passion was there from these guys. Like, I mean, you see it in spades right across the entirety of the team. And also they showed some clutch factor and some serious resilience today that we haven't seen from them so far. And that puts them in a really great spot going into the major. We'll talk about the seedings here at the end of the video, but as Scump says, GG's Boston 1-3-1 and advanced to our major at 3-2. Very impressive how they've turned things around, to be honest. Dashy was a monster this series as well. 1.35 KD, 75% non-traded kill percentage. That is pretty remarkable indeed. That's the thing. When Dashy has crazy numbers like this, it's difficult to lose a series, especially when Illy's, you know, dropping a 1.33 KD on Tusk and Hardpoint. And well, we look at the overall series stats. This is what you'd love to see if you're Scump right now. Scump's dropping a 0.95. The rest of the team, 1.35, 1.14, 1.13. Like, if you're Scump, you're absolutely loving that, right? The rest of the guys are doing their job. You're kind of there filling in the gaps, right? And I think that's the perfect role really for Scump nowadays. And if he does have a crazy map, they're probably going to win the series even more comfortably than they did already. This also just to mention real quick from the Looney side then, because as it turned out after the result of the series, OpTic I think got the number 4 spot. Therefore, the poor Minnesota guys had to play the number 1, the number 2, the number 4, the number 5, and the number 7 seed. And of course, actually beat the number 4 and the number 7 seed in, of course, their matches they played, but still only get 10th seed at the major. So difficult time for Minnesota, but still, that's how this format works, unfortunately for them. And impressive stuff for OpTic now, I guess, being 9-1 in their last, the last 3 series they played. So definitely impressive consistency. These guys turning up what we want to see for the major. We want OpTic to be competitive in this league. It makes things more entertaining, and also it's good if they're their own major, right? Well, thankfully, they're not going to be in losers. That was a serious concern for some time. But yeah, they're going to be in the winners bracket. We'll dive into the bracket here in just a couple of seconds, or at least how things are looking in terms of the seeding, because we have a final series that still has some things to be determined. As Ravens say, okay, now we just need New York to beat Atlanta FaZe 3-1, and we get the number 1 seed. That's the thing. Ravens were 4-1, therefore FaZe, if they're 4-1 as well, the tiebreakers could go in Ravens' favour, depending on map count and stuff like this, if New York get a comfortable victory over FaZe. That is, of course, much easier said than done, especially with FaZe playing the way they are right now, but also Sutherland's respawn, especially their hardpoints, still being absolutely terrible. Now, look, in fairness to FaZe, sometimes they just do this to you, that they come out and just body you from start to finish. That's pretty much what I thought was going to happen here. It certainly happened game 1, game 2. In fairness, game 1 was close until it was about 190, and then FaZe ran away and won it. Like, pretty interesting, really, just because FaZe don't really play Berlin hardpoint. That's not a map that I'm pretty sure they've played at all so far, and it's certainly one that, in theory, New York should be quite good at. And in fairness, they look all right at it for a time, but then the final 60 or so seconds, FaZe just run away and win the entire thing. It honestly is, it's kind of an interesting question, really, because in theory, this should be a more AR-heavy map, like longer line of sights in general, but you look at the scoreboard, and it's Simp and aBeZy both got 30 kills, both got 20-something deaths. Like, yeah, these guys both took over the game right here. That's the thing, if you're SMG players or Simp and aBeZy, they can do this type of stuff on maps maps where SMGs generally should maybe struggle a little bit more than other ones. And yeah, FaZe get the job done here. I'm sure there was an element here from FaZe. Okay, let's try out and play Berlin. That's what these guys do. Like, that's what they did last year a lot of the time. They were the clear #1 team. They're just playing these maps. Like, probably they would have banned this maybe in another series. Against, in the grand finals, they might ban this, for example. But against New York, when they know they're, have already got good seeding, they know they're probably going to win this series anyway. Like, why not try out another map in a proper match? That's the reason why FaZe is able to stay so far ahead of the game. And also it helps, they're very good indeed. They win the game 1. New York, again, they lose another hardpoint. Pretty sure 0 in 8. That now makes them on the stage. That's obviously not so ideal. And they, well, the same thing happens in the game 4. We'll see in just a couple of seconds. Then the search and destroy. This was maybe the quickest search and destroy of the season. I'm not sure, because there was that one series that London played against Florida, or someone, maybe the first series of the season, that said they beat them in maybe like, well, it was seeming like about 5 minutes. This game 2 was a similar length of time. I'm pretty sure like 5 minutes, 20 seconds or something this search and destroy went past in, at least in terms of actual time in the game, in the top left of the scoreboard at the end of the map. And yeah, Cell goes 10 in 1. In fairness, Crim almost clutches a 1v4 at the end of the game. But yeah, Cellium has just found his new spot. It's like the Garrison spots, kind of, right on the kind of green satellite type thing people used to call it. It's a similar spot to on Tusken. Gets behind this little head glitch, crouches down there, and yeah, a very tough man to kill indeed. 10 in 1, gets full streaks. That's just what this guy's doing nowadays. Then we go on to the game 3 Gravity Control. Again, a bit of a snooze fest, right? That's the thing. Teams are figuring out really well how to play for kills now, rather than figuring out how to play for actually capping these points. Hopefully they change that very soon. I'm sure they will do for stage 2, but I mean, Sedgema seems to be relatively well on top of things lately. But in fairness, right, it goes all the way to round 5. Crimsix has a monster round 5 as well, like with the AR in hand, hitting some absolute beamer shots, to be honest. Got some 4 pieces in there as well, so Crim turns up towards the end of that map, makes it a close series at least. At least they won a map right here in this series. But yeah, really going into this hardpoint again, it felt like there's no way in hell that FaZe aren't going to win this one with the talent they have. In fairness to Royalty, has a good early start to the game. Crim does not have the greatest map 4 here by any means. But yeah, I mean, FaZe, honestly, they were definitely not taking the mick this series, right? But I'm pretty sure they were trialing Berlin just for the sake of it, right, to get some practice on that map. They still bowl over New York, they dominate them in the search and destroy, and they win the series very comfortably without really trying too hard. Like, honestly, when Crim almost got that 1v4, I was looking at aBeZy's face. He just had a smile on his face running down trying to chase Crim down. Like, he didn't really care if he gave it the 1v4. They were so confident they're winning the series regardless. That's kind of the FaZe of old. That's a scary face for the rest of the league to consider, but it also means that right now New York are considered far from a top team in this league, and understandably so. Definitely a lot of work still to be done on this end. Some spicy words as the series comes to an end. Simp drops this one. You are horrible at Crimsix. Certainly the game 4, he went like 15 in 28 or something, right? He didn't have the greatest final map of the series. But yeah, Simp have some words. Always when they play New York and play Crimsix, like there's always some great times to be held on the timeline. So yeah, Simp definitely firing some shots here. aBeZy, a similar thing. I think he might have deleted this one, not really sure. But as he says, Crim is sort of my son at this point. So yeah, the Tiny Terrors definitely not having any of the trash talk Luke that Crimsix was sending earlier today. Goes their way. They dominate the series. They kind of embarrass New York, honestly, at times. If there's any particularly spicy response to this, of course, we'll dive into it tomorrow. But this then is your bracket for the major. So the seeding turned out as follows. Mutineers were 9th. I think Rokkr were 10th. Subliners 11th. And then Paris Legion, of course, in 12th, the only team to have confirmed their spots going into today. And this then is on the winner's side. So FaZe #1 seed, Boston #8 seed. They play first round. Then OpTic #4 seed, I believe, against Surge #5 seed. They play, well, they obviously play right here. So potentially FaZe OpTic in the second round. I'm sure we'll talk about this in more detail tomorrow. But Ravens, I believe, is the 2nd seed. They play Guerrillas the 7th seed. And then, of course, what remains is Thieves in the 3rd seed. And then I guess Ultra in the 6th seed, playing on this lower side. But very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit in a like button. Tell us a YouTube god this is a good video. I'd just like you to see it as well. And I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you as always. Take care. And I will see you next time.